What if there was zero friction between the drawing that you were envisioning and what you put out on paper? What if, regardless of the creative medium you pursued, every minute detail or tiny curve of your lines matched one for one with your intent, a harmonic mixing of the perfect subtleties, as if things sprouted straight from your mind out into the physical world for all to see? This is what David Smith considered the answer to his prayers when he sat alone at a cafe he frequented, a washed-up sculptor rejected by the upper inner circle of artist elites that are more interested in stoking their egos than actually celebrating good art. He wallows in self-pity, downing drinks alone. Things escalate when David's thoughts are interrupted by the arrival of his Uncle Harry. The two light up and exchange a hug before catching up with each other, going over the cliff notes of David's life and how he ended up at rock bottom. You see, David was originally picked up by a big-time investor who was said to turn sculptures into gold, and it worked well enough until David pissed him off, effectively severing his ties with the art world. His inability to compromise or peddle BS to suck up cost him his career, to which Harry teases him over, as he's always been like this. But David is tired of talking about himself, and the conversation shifts to the last time he and Harry had seen each other, which turns out not to have been at a party or sporting event, but rather at Harry's own funeral. Life doesn't always turn out the way we planned, David. Who? I'm your granduncle Harry, and we're just having a little conversation. Here's how things are probably going to go. You'll get a job at a community college, maybe meet a girl at a Best Buy, start dating. She'll put up with your crazy habits, and you'll put up with her musical tastes. Time will pass, you'll make it official. 2 boys, a dog. That isn't me. Why not? It could be. You'll wonder less about what could have been as the years go by. That isn't me, it really can't be. Why not? It's a decent life. Food, sex, running water, a roof, not to mention love and family. Those aren't small things. It's not enough. You kids are spoiled. You know billions would kill for a life like that. So what if the art thing didn't work out? Is it really that important? It's all I have. What would you give for your art, David? The Sculptor places its protagonist squarely in the middle of a giant ultimatum. After a supernatural encounter early on, David Smith starts reflecting on the shambled remains of his life. He doesn't have much to cling to. The years have not been kind to his family, with one tragedy after another picking them off one by one. While a large part of his circumstance can be attributed to his own doing, there's definitely a component of bad luck as well. Not too long after his fateful encounter, he shambles through the city streets in a stress-induced panic, overcome by what he saw and the awful hand he's been dealt in life. But after sinking to the ground, he notices something. David's gained the ability to sculpt anything he wants. He rushes to his workshop and is infatuated with his new powers, gliding his hands across his granite slab, making anything he can think of. There is a very unfortunate caveat to this, though, since if he accepts his newfound powers, he has a meager 200 days to live. So, do we have a deal? You can still back out if you want. Tell me the truth. Who are you? You know who I am. The Sculptor is an amazing graphic novel, and I won't spoil exactly how the story ends because I do think that you should read it for yourself. But from the brief stuff we've covered so far, you likely can tell that it's a story about how the solutions to our issues are often more complex than we think. David's ability to bend and shape matter gives him some short-term relief, but it doesn't give him the acceptance he craves from the art snobs, nor does it put him on a fast track to success in general. But what does this book have to do with the topic we're discussing today? AI art, its scary implications, the way it'll change things so rapidly it'll be hard to predict, and conclusively, some theories I can levy for why you don't have to feel worthless as an artist, even with its existence. The Sculptor was obviously never trying to make a statement on AI art because it wasn't a thing at the time. Even ignoring the fact that this came out in 2015, this isn't too hard to wrap your head around. The story doesn't try to tell David that the authentic way of sculpting is superior to the quick and easy way through using his powers. Rather, the powers are a vehicle to show us that his life's issues are more complex than just the extent of his artwork. That being said, it's hard not to think about generative art when reading this book now. David's investment in each of his works aren't as strong as they were before he had these abilities. and when he loses all of his recent works via the floor of his warehouse caving in from the sheer weight of his sculptures, he's quick to dismiss it and continue working. The ability to create so effortlessly has made them inconveniences rather than a tragic loss. Now, I'm no AI artist, but even if we account for all of the Photoshop editing and adjustments that come with the craft, I'd wager that losing something you were able to generate with a prompt will not have the same feeling as losing something you had to create brush by brush. It is very much, right now at the very least, a type of medium where you create in sweeping broad statements rather than from the ground up. There are some people who do not seem to be bothered by the ease of this craft. I'm not sure if most of these people just didn't create stuff before generative AI was a thing, but as someone who's been drawing most of my life, I do find it interesting the amount of people who don't even weigh how inconsiderate it is to say people shouldn't be afraid or taken aback by the fact that something you used to have to pour thousands of hours of your life into to do well can now be replicated ad nauseum at the snap of one's fingertips. It's a unique shade of angst that the human race has never really faced, not on this level at the very least. The invention of photography surely gave painters some existential insecurity, but unless photorealism was your style of choice, one wasn't trying to replicate the other one for one, and there was a time and place for both mediums. AI doesn't really go for an AI look. It's trying to scrub those serial numbers off, looking as much like a human creation as it possibly can. Even if you're the most anti-AI person out there, it's undeniable how good some of this stuff looks. A misplaced foot here, an extra finger there, sure, but it'll get better sooner or later. Take a look at some of the Mid-Journey generations used in Horse's video on Marcus Aurelius. The visuals look like some sort of lost media vintage anime that time forgot. There are rolling hills, mountains that scrape the sky, and perfect encapsulations of the human figure. That something like this could come from anything other than the human hand is nothing short of incredible, even with the moral ramifications in mind. At the same time, some of the ripple effects of generative art can be interpreted as positive, particularly for those who are just starting out in their field of choice. The idea of a new YouTuber being able to ornament their channel with a beautiful banner and amazing looking art for next to nothing is equal parts compelling and horrifying. For all its evils, it's hard not to be a tad excited, at the very least. And I don't just say that because you can generate a victim impact statement on Skidibbity Toilet Riz and ChatGPT. I mean the idea of getting your friends together for a Dungeons & Dragons campaign with a dungeon master that can effortlessly spin fun stories and bookkeep all of your stats sounds like a fun time, especially if everyone has just come home from their 9 to 5 and wants to relax. But assuming tabletop games can tap into that technology, how long until video games follow suit? A world where you can instantly generate a sequel to your favorite game with a handful of button clicks doesn't sound very genuine or good as a developer, and while that human touch is ever so important, there's a chance that could eventually just be programmed in as well. Generative AI seems like the realm of forbidden technology in a sci-fi story or a dark and potent magic in a fantasy setting. I could liken it to Frodo throwing the ring in the fires of Mount Doom, like it's something that's too powerful to exist. This video might be coming off as unnecessarily bleak, but I do think there is some light at the end of the tunnel. Not as much as I would like, but some light all the same. With such a fast rise in the strength of AI, it's not unreasonable to hope that we'll also have a tool that can accurately detect the difference between something that's AI generated and something that isn't. In fact, some such tools exist already for ChatGPT, though they can be thwarted if the AI user in question knows what they're doing well enough. AI might be able to do what humans do, but people still like stuff that's handmade. Factories and Etsy both exist at the same time, after all. As weird as this might sound, perhaps a healthier way to look at art from here on would be to liken it to speedrunning. A tool-assisted run where you can make all of the correct adjustments until it's perfect is certainly possible and much easier than doing it yourself, but the novelty can quickly wear off, and ultimately, it's not as fun to watch as a person who's put in hundreds of hours to perfect every turn and input of the game they're playing. Since a gorgeous picture can now or soon will be hard to construe with a person's actual hand-drawn work, it becomes important to ask several questions. How did this picture come to be? Was each brushstroke meticulously laid out, or was there a prompt involved? The end point is no longer the only thing to keep in mind. If you're inquisitive about the art world and just want to passively enjoy stuff, these are the kind of things you'll want to ask from now on. For digital artists, it could become the norm for your viewers to want to see a montage or a series of images leading up to the final result so that they know the work is authentic. Is it unfair or annoying that non-AI artists now have to prove their authenticity because of other people's stuff? Sure, but we don't live in a fair world. I won't pretend to have all the answers or predictions to what will unfold evolved over the coming years, but I will leave you with this. When many first found out about generative technology, myself included, we thought it would water down our taste for handmade works. We thought it would make everything feel lesser, that we wouldn't appreciate human-made art as much. It did the opposite.